Are you a prepper or homesteader looking to connect with like-minded people in your area? Looking to start your own preparedness group? Already have a group? Well, look no further than PrepperNet. PrepperNet is dedicated to personal responsibility, individual freedoms, and being self-reliant. PrepperNet has monthly meetings in over 100 cities where you can meet and learn with like-minded people in your area. PrepperNet, where preppers unite. Find us online at preppernet.com.
You've just joined the Prepper Broadcasting Network, where we promote self-reliance and independence. The views and opinions expressed are strictly those of the host or their guests. Visit us in the interactive chat room at prepperbroadcasting.com.
Survive, thrive, stay alive. It's time to get prepared with the Prepping Academy podcast.
Hey, we are here live from prepperbroadcasting.com. Hope everyone's doing well. I am here in the studios, the home office in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm alone. Can you believe that? Tenderfoot had some Thanksgiving plans where he could not. It was iffy, and he is not going to be here tonight. So it's just me tonight, but I have a very special guest, the one and only Engineer 777. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, you see this live show that just came up, Prepper Academy, Prepping Academy. Jeez. Hey, go over to prepperbroadcasting.com. We have an interactive chat room. You can listen to us over there. And if you're listening to this via a podcast, we are live every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on prepperbroadcasting.com. And again, we have a chat room. You can join us. And hey, Micheal Kline, welcome to the show. I've never had you on my show before.
Dude, you realize I was out dancing naked in the snow, enjoying fermented grain-based beverages when you were texting me, right?
Really?
This
it's
is my
snowing?
day off.
Is it really?
Oh.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Micheal does our Friday night show at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the name of your show, Micheal, is what? It's
Reality Check.
Reality Check. I mean, okay, I got to be honest with you. I listened to your show 2 weeks ago. It was a tough show to listen to. I mean, it was good, but your wife was talking a lot about death. It was kind of a shocker. You know what I mean? You kind of got to think through that, but she really kind of put it to it. And I thought it was a great show. It was a great show.
That's kind of the premise of the show is, if you read the description, it's, we're not going to tell you how to get food or how I got water or, if you got that little bay of thing, hey, that's great. I don't care. We are going to tell you about the things that, when life gives you a slap in the face and a cold dose of reality, that's what the show's about. So, death and dying is part of Grid Down, and that's why she covered it.
Wow, I'm telling you, to prepare for the end, you need to listen to that show. Not even for the end, anytime, because everyone has parents and family and friends. It was a good show. It was really good, and you kind of just took a back seat, which was interesting.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. He said you did a good job.
Yeah,
EK thanks you.
Yeah, well, I tell her I'm not going to be around her anymore. I'm afraid of her now. She wouldn't save me. She just watched me die.
She poked you to make sure you're still alive.
Okay, so, Micheal, we have no idea what we're going to talk about, but I've got some good questions for you. So, let's talk. Have you done a show on SDR yet?
I have not.
Yeah, we probably need to get that information out there, I think, sometime. I need to do one. You need to do one. You're the genius at it. I still can't get it to work on my pad, but if you don't mind, do you mind us talking about that for a minute?
Sure, we can do that. And by the way, Flying Dutchman in the chat room. Yeah, I'm still being ragged about that. So there's a Flying Dutchman posted a comment in the chat room. He says tripod man, and for those of you that weren't listening, you're just going to have, or those of you that don't know what we're talking about, you're just going to have to go back and listen to that show.
And what was the name of that show? What was the name of that show?
That was The Deaf and Dying, I think.
Okay, tripod man.
But anyway, yes, so SDR is a good topic to talk about tonight.
Yes. Are you laughing at that?
No, I'm laughing at the comments in the chat room. But anyway,
okay.
Yes, SDR. Ask your questions.
Yeah, what does SDR stand for?
Okay, so SDR stands for Software Defined Radio, and in a nutshell, what it is it's a very small computer plugged into a thumb drive that has been programmed to think it is a radio. So it enables a computer to receive radio signals without having an elaborate, ham radio or scanner setup. So in a nutshell, that's what SDR is.
So once you plug this device into a computer, your computer becomes a tuner, and you really don't need the internet at all, except when you set it up to install the software.
Correct.
And you can listen to, what frequencies can you listen to?
Well, that depends on the SDR you buy and how much money you want to invest in it. So a really cheap one that the Prepping Academy actually turned me on to, he actually baptized me in SDR, so I have to thank Forrest for turning me on to that because I was not aware of it beforehand. But there's a really good one called RTL SDR, and it is supposed to receive all of HF, which is like 3 to 30 megahertz, VHF and UHF. I have used it for the VHF and the UHF, and it works really well. There are cheaper models, and they're more expensive. You can get like the Hack RF, which that's the name of it, Hack, H-A-C-K, RF, and it allows you to transmit and receive. There's the Fun Cube. There's multiple SDR tuners out there, but a good basic one is Noor Electric, N-O-O-R, I think, Electric, and then SDR, RTL SDR. So those are the two basic ones.
And we're talking $20-$30 max, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it comes with a little antenna, and for $30 you can. And everybody goes, why do I want my computer to be a radio? I mean, well, how are you going to receive HF signals except via maybe a shortwave radio? Okay, imagine all the radios you would have to have for some of the frequencies. You'd have to have an HF receiver. You'd have to have a VHF receiver, a UHF receiver, a FM receiver, an AM receiver. I mean, these little devices really receive almost every radio signal in the world, if it's close. I mean, it will receive it if you can get if the frequency or if the signal hits your antenna, correct?
Correct. So with VHF and UHF, you're going to be able to hear everything within 30 to 50 miles. Basically, say 50 miles, give or take. With HF, you're going to hear everything across the world. Now, that all depends on your antenna.
Correct.
So the little antenna that comes with the SDR radio is not going to be the best for HF. It works great for VHF. It works really well for UHF and for plane plotter stuff, which we can get into in a minute. But for HF, you kind of need an external antenna to string up a long wire. But, yeah, you can receive signals all over the world. And for some people would say, well, why would I want that? I've got a shortwave radio. That's great. But as Forrest said, this thing can act as a shortwave radio. It can act as an AM, FM radio for regular music. It can act as VHF and UHF. But one of the cool things that SDR can do that normal scanners can't do is it can decode data. Now, that can be decoding data for a trunked radio system. That can be decoding data for aircraft, which we can talk about here in a minute.
Yep.
One of the really cool things is that it can record. So let's say you're monitoring a frequency, you're listening to a disaster exercise, and you really have to go to the bathroom, and there's nobody else there.
Right.
You know what? Hey, man, I'm gonna give you a real-life example. So you're recording, you're listening to traffic, and it's a FEMA exercise, and you got to get up, and they're right in the middle of broadcasting a code that you need. You can set the SDRs to record. And so you can get up and you can walk off and you can have it record for an hour. You can have it record for a day, depending on the size of your hard drive. But that's one of the huge advantages of SDR is it will record an entire band while you're gone. So let's say you're listening to, here's an example. FEMA has what they call the 60-meter band. That's around 5 megahertz. There are 5 or 6 channels. The ham radio people in the chat room are going to crucify me over this. But I think there's 5 or 6 channels that FEMA jumps back and forth when they do exercises. You can record all 5 channels simultaneously for the entire day, and while your computer is recording, you can go out and go do stuff with the wife and kids. She thinks you're spending time with her and being the good husband.
Right.
But in reality, you've got ulterior stuff going on in the background. EK, close your ears. So that when you come back, you can play with your radios and not miss anything that's happened in the day. And that's one of the huge things that I use SDR for.
Right. You can also, I forgot, you can get the weather as well.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. That's one thing that I do. I download weather satellites. So
that was different. Yeah, I was talking about just receiving the weather channels. But yes, we're going to get into let's talk about that now. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead and tell them.
You were right. So you were talking about NOAA weather radio.
Yeah,
so
NOAA.
You can actually hear the NOAA weather radio. Well, I'll tell you, there's another thing that you can use the SDR for if you have the HF, and that's called WeFax. The boats and the ships that are out at the sea in the Atlantic and the Pacific, they actually get weather facsimiles sent to them on HF. But what you were talking about is on VHF, around 137 megahertz, there are weather satellites that orbit the Earth. They come over about every 12 hours. And when they come over, if you have the right software and the right signals and everything set, the moon and the Venus are aligned, you can download weather maps. And I have done that. I have downloaded weather. And for the people in the chat room and for the people listening to the podcast and whatnot, you say, oh, big deal, I can tune to the Weather Channel. Well, in a grid-down situation, you're not going to have the Internet. You're not going to have the Weather Channel. How are you going to know if there's a giant snowstorm coming? How are you going to know if there's a hurricane coming? Well, this is one of the ways you can do that. If you have a laptop and an SDR radio and the right software that you've downloaded and configured beforehand, you can download weather maps, and you can see the motion, and you can predict the weather off-grid.
Correct. And weather information can be life-saving. You can see if big thunderstorms are coming. You can see if a front's moving in. You can see a lot of information. But the cool thing is, it's difficult to do because I think tell me if I'm wrong here, the weather satellite comes up over the horizon, and you start receiving packets of information, and by the time it goes and disappears on the other side of the horizon, it's about a 30-minute span, and it literally takes you almost 30 minutes to download a full image of the weather over the United States. Is that correct?
More or less. It's more about 10 minutes. So
okay.
From horizon to horizon, so the time that the thing can see the signal, the time that you can decode information is anywhere between 9 minutes and 13 minutes, and then it probably takes another 10 minutes to compile the data. But within 20 minutes, yes, you've got an image and you could see it.
And so you can tell if there's a storm brewing, in the Mediterranean. Not the Mediterranean. What am I talking about? In the Gulf of Mexico or whatever, if the hurricane's coming up, snowstorm. In a grid down, information's king, but it is complicated to do the weather. You got to make this special antenna. Am I correct?
Yeah. So the antenna is called a QFH, and I would butcher it if I pronounced it, but it's a quadrifilar heliax. But if you just Google QFH or if you Google QFA antenna, you'll get it. You can use a standard vertical antenna. You can use a standard scanner antenna, and it'll do it, but it's prone to fade ins and fade outs. There's a whole lot of science and Doppler effect and doing apogees and perigees and a whole bunch of other really, really nerdy stuff that goes into it. So I built one of these antennas, and it works. It works really well. I can see from when the satellites come over, the ones that I can decode, I can see from the Yucatan Peninsula up into Canada. I can see all of Cuba and the Dominican Republic. I can see Mexico and I think Arizona north up to about Montana or the Dakotas. So more or less the eastern half of the United States, South America, and North America, I can see that on my maps. And I can see any weather patterns that are coming through there.
Right. Yep. And once you download it, I mean, the total cost of getting this to work is literally your current laptop, free software, and this little, I call it a dongle, of about, I think the more expensive one's $30, there's a cheaper one for $20, and this all can work without the internet. And so you could sit in the middle of the woods and download the weather, and it's passive, so no one can't track you. All this with this is passive. I'm not sure if that's the correct terminology, but no one can track you when you're receiving a signal.
Correct.
You're not broadcasting. All you're doing is receiving that signal. So you did mention one of the coolest things is tracking planes. Tell me about that.
Okay, so Flying Dutchman posted a link in the chat room of AirSpy, and that is a good site to start with. So for those of you that are in the chat room, you see the link airspy.com. That's where you can start with the software. You can branch out from there. So real quick, the softwares to use, there is SDR Sharp. That's a real good one. If you run Linux, GNU Radio, if you're a Linux person. So getting into the plane, so there's 2 or 3 pieces of software you can need to get. But how that works is every domestic and international aircraft, pretty much every aircraft that's supposed to be airborne, broadcasts a signal through the transponder. So if you've ever listened to the news and you've heard the transponder and they were going to squawk or we lost their ACARS data or any kind of that, there are about 5 or 6. Now, if any of you all in the chat room are aviation people, please correct me on this. But I think there's about 5 or 6 things on an aircraft that broadcast. And it's just a, hey, hello, I'm here, here's where I'm at. Hey, hello, I'm here, here's where I'm at. And it does that. Every few seconds it broadcasts, and it says, here's what the plane is, here's the flight number, everything's okay, here's our GPS coordinates, here's our altitude. And
our
the
speed.
Airport.
Yep.
Yeah, and their speed, their heading, everything. And the airports pick that up, and they use that information, and they integrate that with their radar, and that's how they track where the planes are. Well, that information is free to get. It's out there. It's in the air. It's free to download it. It's completely legal to download it. You're not breaking any laws doing any of this. And using the SDR and just a regular old antenna that comes with the SDR, you can decode that data. And you actually get a map, and you can see the planes flying above you, and you can tell where they are and what they're doing. And that is completely off-grid. That does not require the Internet. You have to have the Internet to download it.
Right.
But after you get it downloaded and after everything's working, you can go out in the middle of the woods camping, be completely away from the Internet, and you can see which planes are flying overhead, and you can see their flight numbers. And you can say, yep, that's an American Airlines, or that's a Delta, or that's a JetBlue, or, that's a Pakistani military. What is the Pakistani military doing flying overhead? Those are things you really and truly can see.
Correct. Also, in the United States, over the airspace United States, even military drones and military planes use this because they don't want to crash or another plane crash into them. That kind of helps the air traffic controllers control and make sure planes don't crash in the air. And it works pretty good because we have very few, collisions in the air. But the cool thing is, like you said, once you download this, you can also download a database of tail numbers or plane numbers, and you'd be amazed the information you can get. But you can go in the middle of nowhere, no internet signal whatsoever, and you can know every plane that's above you. Now, here's one issue though. This is actually a new technology that's being installed. They're changing how they do their transponders, and so this is a technology that is coming to us. It's not something old that's being faded out. So I would say I'm not sure the percentage of how many planes actually have this new technology and this new signal, because it's on a new frequency and all that, but I know it's fading in and not fading out. Do you know the date when all planes have to have that?
I don't know the date that every aircraft has to have it. I can tell you that all commercial aircraft, so any passenger flight, is going to have it.
Yes,
most
they will.
Military is going to run some form of it. I usually watch the refueling tankers flying around, and eventually all drones, even residential drones, will have to have it, or drones that are above a certain size that can go to certain altitudes or within certain feet of airports. They'll have to have it. Anything that's a commercial drone or anything that's designated for commercial or military drones. Now, when we say drones, we're talking about the little like quadcopter. Any like Reaper or that type drone, yes, they have to have it already. So commercial jets, it's already across the board in, I think, 99% of commercial passenger aircraft. Military aircraft, they're transitioning over to it. Residential drones and little like hobby drones, it's coming in, let's say 5-6 years maybe.
Right. Yep. So and again, it's $30 for the nice one. I mean for the one that does the HF. And so tell you what, Michael, hang on one second. We're going to take another quick commercial break, and we're going to be back. Okay. We're talking about SDR on the Prepping Academy. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Prepping Academy. The information you need before the world ends.
Hey, let's take a quick break.
Are you a prepper or homesteader looking to connect with like-minded people in your area? Looking to start your own preparedness group? Already have a group? Well, look no further than PrepperNet. PrepperNet is dedicated to personal responsibility, individual freedoms, and being self-reliant. PrepperNet has monthly meetings in over 100 cities where you can meet and learn with like-minded people in your area. PrepperNet, where preppers unite. Find us online at preppernet.com.
Hi, I'm Joe Alton, MD, also known as Dr. Bones of the award-winning survival medicine website doomandbloom.net and co-author of the bestseller The Survival Medicine Handbook. As a medical doctor, I know how important it is to have knowledge, but you'll need supplies if you're going to save lives in a disaster. We've got an entire line of medical kits for every homestead, retreat, workplace, vehicle, church, school, just about any purpose you might imagine, and they're all put together by a real MD and nurse practitioner. Other kits are fine when the ambulance is on the way, but when you're the end of the line with regards to your family's well-being, you'll be a more effective medical asset with kits and supplies uniquely designed for tough times and packed in the USA. Prepare your family for any disaster with medical kits and supplies at store.doomandbloom.net. That's store.doomandbloom.net. Make medical kits by Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy a part of your medical storage.
Do you have the ultimate wood-burning collapsible survival and camping stove? Stop looking. The Under 6 Elite Survival Stove by SurvivalStoveWorks.com can cook a meal in under 6 minutes with just a few twigs and sticks and without all the smoke and black soot. The Under 6 Elite weighs under 6 pounds and can be assembled in under 1 minute. This survival stove is made in the USA by patriots and preppers like you with high-quality steel. The Under 6 Elite stove with all the extras is also easy to store and transport in its own carrying case. It's on sale now with free shipping. See it in action and get yours now at survivalstoveworks.com. That's survivalstoveworks.com.
Thanks for joining the Prepping Academy. The information you need before the world ends.
Okay, we are back with Micheal Kline. He does a Friday night podcast here on Prepper Broadcasting Network. Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called Reality Check. And Micheal is a technology genius.
Yeah. Don't flatter yourself.
Dude, I mean, except you haven't. I'm trying to install this SDR on my tablet, and I've got everything working except the scope. Isn't that the software? What's it called? The scope for the planes?
ADBS scope.
Yes. So I've got everything working except that. But we'll get it working. Matter of fact, I'm going to take Micheal out to lunch next week, and I'm going to buy him lunch, and he's going to help me figure it out. Because apparently
okay.
I owe you big time. I mean, coming on at the last minute. Matter of fact, as we started the show and it was going, I actually texted him and I said, call in. I said, call in. It's all I put. Micheal said, give me 5 minutes. What a trooper. So,
yeah, well, I was outside dancing naked in the snow, and Kate told me, he says, you got to come in and do a show. And I was like, okay, well, let me get showered off real quick.
You know, I'd rather you not say that again because I know what you look like. And I'm really having really bad images in my head right now. So,
yeah,
hey,
no problem.
But tell me what else. Is there anything else SDR can do?
Okay, real quick. We had some comments in the chat room about cell phones and tablets and whatnot. So here's the deal. SDR is more or less meant for a desktop or a laptop. It is a USB device. So when we talk about SDR dongles, it's like a thumb drive, and it's really and truly meant to be used for laptops or desktops. Now, there are some tablets that have USB ports, and if that tablet can utilize USB storage or mount USB devices, then the tablet could be used for SDR. For cell phones and tablets that don't have a USB port, meaning you can't plug USB storage into them, they will accept that you can download apps that will run, but you have to have an external receiver that pipes the audio over to them. So I know we had the question that, can you use it on a cell phone? Technically, no. It's not going to work on a cell phone. It's not going to work on a tablet. But there are ways around it if you had like a scanner from Radio Shack, or if you had some other means to pipe the data signal or the audio signal from an SDR or from an external receiver into the phone or tablet, then it would work. But when we say SDR and the radio and the receivers, we're really meaning laptops and desktops. So I hope that answers the question that was in the chat room.
Yeah, now I've got it to work. I have a tablet that has a USB port, and my tablet is actually it's a true laptop more so than a tab. It can go to tablet mode, but it is a true laptop, but made into a tablet. So, but yes, and I have it working. I have the SDR part working. I can listen to any frequency, but I've yet to get the plane tracking, and so that's where you're going to help me. But so you're 100% correct on that. Yep.
Yeah, when I say tablets, I'm talking about like Android tablets or iPads.
Yes, correct.
If you've got a Microsoft Surface, then that's more or less laptop. It's got it's meant to mount USB devices, so that technically will work. So if you've got a Surface, or if you've got a notebook that converts from laptop to tablet or whatnot, if it's running a Microsoft type OS or a Linux type OS, and it is meant to plug in, it can plug USB storage into it, then those will work. But when I say
Right.
tablets, I meant like iPads or Droids
Right,
that don't
yeah.
have a USB port.
And some of the other cool things you can play around with just the SDR part, and I'll get back to my question in a second, is I demonstrated at Prepper Camp where someone could take their keys to lock and unlock their car, their little key fob, and I know where that frequency is, and I can show people and listen to the sound as that frequency goes through the air to your car to unlock your car. Same thing with garage doors. So imagine, and doorbells. So there are some technically some bad things you could possibly do with this, like play with your neighbor's doormail.
Yeah.
And so we're not. And see, Michael, being the guy that he is, I just know they're done. I'm sure Michael's tested most of them, but so you want to get us into
so not that you should do this, but if you wanted to do this, there's something in the world of hacking. It's called a replay attack, and in computers, what you do is you capture a packet, and then you rebroadcast the packet to gain authorization into certain websites and stuff that you're not supposed to get into. It's called a replay attack in hacking. In the world of RF, it's pretty much the same thing. Is you would have an SDR system set up. It's recording, and you would record a signal from, let's say, your neighbor's garage door. And then when they leave, you take your little SDR radio that can actually transmit, or you take a Baofeng and you plug it into the Baofeng, and you replay the signal of the garage door opening or closing, and oops, their garage door opens. Now, again, not saying that you should do that, but those are options, and it's called a replay attack.
Yes.
Here's another one really scary. Now, I have not done this. I would not do this. Please do not do this. You will go to jail and kill people if you do. But there are dangers in that with the aircraft altitude. You can record the signals and the telemetry coming off of the aircraft and then replay that. And you would actually fool the aircraft tower into thinking an aircraft is someplace that it's not.
Right.
And that's a huge security hole. The FAA does know about that. They're working to fix that. So you can't do that hack because they know about it and they're working to fix it. But there are dangers like that you can do with SDR. So there's definitely some pitfalls that bad people, in the hands of bad people, bad things can be done.
Right. But one of the cool things you could do, which is still against the law, is a lot of your neighbors have wireless doorbells. You could have your son go deliver them Christmas cookies you made for him. And as he presses the doorbell several times, you could record that doorbell signal.
Yep.
And from the convenience of your own home, you could ring your doorbells, your neighbor's doorbell. How fun could that be over time?
I'll tell you how real fun it is. It's real fun to hook the SDR radio up to a 100-watt radio on a 24 dB gain antenna and then broadcast that signal over about 3 or 4 miles and ring every doorbell with like a 3 or 4 mile radius between the hours of 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. continuously. Again, not that you should do that, but you could do that.
You could. The fun you can have with this you would need a transmitter, so you would need a little bit more equipment.
Yeah,
but,
you need a little bit of know-how on that one. But I said, the pitfalls are there, so
In a grid down, it wouldn't work so well. So but the SDR is pretty cool, and there's a whole community out there for SDRs as well, and people that do that. Is there any other cool things you can do with an SDR?
Well, let's see. Here are some of the things that I use it for. So I use it for recording HF traffic.
Okay.
So sometimes when there's an exercise going on or when there's a conversation going on and I need to come eat dinner or I got to go run to the store or whatever, I'll set the thing to record. Or if I'm going to be at work during the day, I'll set it to record. So recording radio traffic while you're gone is a really good one. Decoding the aircraft signals, decoding weather satellites, decoding any kind of I guess I could say a disclaimer. Any kind of police radio traffic that's not encrypted, you can decode. So police stations that have gone over to digital radio and your scanner doesn't decode it anymore, you can use a SDR radio to decode that.
Correct. Yep.
Any kind of digital communications pretty much can be decoded because it's all ones and zeros once it gets in the air. So DSD is actually really powerful. So any kind of digital communications with the right software and with the right settings, you can decode it. So I use it for decoding the aircraft. I use it for looking at the weather. I use it for monitoring the police on systems that I can't listen to normally. Let's see, what else do I listen for? I think that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, you can also, if you can imagine, anything that transmits a signal, you can really capture with this. I'm talking, you can actually track boats in the sea because they have like a transponder as well. You can listen to train communications. You can listen to businesses, even the maintenance people in a building because they all transmit on a frequency that you can intercept with this, and it's all legal.
Correct.
It is, I won't say it's endless, but I'll just say this. You will never run out of cool things to do with an SDR. And again, this thing it's $30 off of Amazon. And there's a blue one that's $20, but I would say go ahead and get the one that does the HF that has a little bit more frequency range. You can also, the coolest thing is motion detectors will also, you can actually intercept the signal from a motion detector, which transmits, sends the signal to, an alarm system or something. There's a lot of neat things you can do with this. I wouldn't say I'm a nerd, but I do like technology, and man, it's been fun to play with, for sure.
Yeah, basically. If it transmits a signal, whatever it is, if it transmits a signal, you can find it with an SDR radio, and it doesn't matter what it is. You may not be able to listen to it, but you can absolutely find the signal. And you can take an SDR radio and go up near your microwave and see the signal that your microwave is spitting
Correct.
out. You can do the same thing with car key remotes, with baby monitors, with nanny cams. Anything. If it transmits a radio signal, you can find it and possibly decode it and listen to it with SDR.
And some of the other kind of cool things, and we only have like 3 minutes left, Michael, but cordless phones, baby monitors. It is endless, the fun, that you can have with these. Even the old paging network where, pages would be set down to pagers, and doctors. Oh, I got a page. I got to call in. You can actually. It's kind of scary. It really is.
Yeah.
If it's in the wrong hands.
Believe it or not, people still do carry pagers. There are paging systems that are still in use. You actually still can buy a beeper, and yes, with SDR and the right software, you can decode the messages that are being sent to the doctors and the messages that are being sent to people going, call me, here's my number. You absolutely can decode that with SDR.
And it's not illegal because it's being broadcast out there to you to receive. Now, if you take that information and do something with it, I guess it could become illegal.
Yeah, if you the way the law reads, so to maintain our keep us on the good side of the law, if you decode it and you alone are the only ones that know about it, then technically it's not illegal. So you can listen to cell phone conversations, and as long as you don't divulge the content of the cell phone conversation, technically that's not illegal. Unethical? Yeah. Yeah. But not illegal in the way that the law reads from the Communications Act of 1996, I think it is.
Right. Okay,
not
Michael.
That I've ever gotten in trouble with that.
Well, I've never done. I'm not smart enough to do that, but apparently, people do it all the time. So, hey, Michael, man, what a friend! You came on last minute, talked about SDR. We got like a minute left. Tell us about your show and where people can listen to it.
Okay, so my show is Reality Check. I'm on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I think that's 2 a.m. Zulu for those of you that are international. What my show is, and mine's kind of more of a teaching education thing. So we pick a topic each week, and we kind of go into detail. Sometimes it's really scientific. Sometimes it's really not. So this Friday coming up is going to be Don't Thread on Me, and where I talk about cotton. So the dangers of cotton and what happens to cotton from a scientific level when it gets wet, and then some of the other things that you can use to avoid hypothermia in the wintertime. So my show is like the name says, it's a reality check. It's, I kind of cut through the BS, and I get down to the really nitty-gritty topics that nobody else wants to talk about, and that's kind of what my show is.
And that's Friday nights, 9 p.m. at prepperbroadcasting.com, and then it goes into a podcast, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and there's a chat room on Friday night as well. So, guys, hey, Michael, thank you. We got 45 seconds for closing up. Hey, this is Forrest. This is the Prepping Academy. You can find us on iTunes. Go to our website, preppingacademy.com. Sign up for our mailing list and send us your comments and questions there at preppingacademy.com. Really appreciate you stepping in, Michael. Be listening to you Friday night. Everyone have a good Thanksgiving, and we will be here next Monday night.
Thanks for listening to the Prepping Academy podcast. Preppers Unite at www.preppingacademy.com.
Today's broadcast has come to you through the courtesy of the Prepper Broadcasting Network. See our hosts, show schedules, archived programs, and more at prepperbroadcasting.com. Thanks for listening.
Has your data been hacked? Do you feel uneasy about the vulnerability of your personal information online? Were you involved in the Target, LinkedIn, or Microsoft data leaks? Don't know? If not, then pay attention. Join Forrest Garvin from PrepperNet for a free webinar on privacy and security. Gain insights into safe internet browsing, VPNs, crafting online aliases, secure emails, detecting if your data has been hacked, and managing passwords. Secure your spot today for this webinar on privacy and security. It's free. This webinar delves into comprehensive strategies for bolstering your online privacy. We've got you covered, from fortifying your passwords to shielding your financial information and mastering state-of-the-art encryption techniques. We're offering 2 convenient dates to suit your schedule. Reserve your spot now at preppernet.com/privacy. Don't let cyber threats erode your peace of mind any longer. Take the first step toward a safer, more secure online experience by joining us for our free webinar. Remember, knowledge is power when it comes to safeguarding your privacy. Sign up now at preppernet.com/privacy. We'll see you there.